Welcome. This is Rich Larson, and I want to thank you for joining our IIBA certification chat for November this year. We are going to have a open Q&A session where I'll take any questions on IIBA certification from you. I'll read your questions from the written input, such as, hi, Aaron from Edmonton, welcome. So send me in any questions now, or like Aaron just did, please send me your name, your location, and anything else that's happening, like the weather, just to kind of get used to the interface. That way you'll get over the learning curve of that. So please send me that. There are some handouts. If you go to the handout section of the interface, you'll see a copy of this presentation is there waiting for you, and you can then use that for future reference. So we record all of them and to make them available to you from past sessions as well on our website. I do have a couple of polls to get us going. Hi, Jason from St. Louis, Missouri. Thanks for joining. I am going to launch the poll shortly here. Let's see here. It should be able to see it any moment now. Yeah, if you can indicate, please, what are you interested in mostly as far as certifications? Hi, Tara from Los Angeles. Welcome. Glad you could join us. So take a moment, if you could, to indicate the kind of certification. Tara says CBAP. The poll is about 71% CBAP, 14% CCBA so far. Few of you are not sure. Not everybody's voted, so I'll let it stay open for a little bit, especially as people are gathering for the chat right now. So about 90% have voted, so I'm going to close the poll. So about 80% CBAP, and I'll share those results here, as is normal for these chats. So I'll address any questions though, so feel free, including, what certification are you interested in, or what should you be, or what do you qualify for? Anything under the sun like that. So just send in your questions as you have them. The slides are designed to give you some information if you're not sure. Here are the 3 levels of certification that IIBA launched back in 2016. They came out with the IIBA-AAC earlier this year, which is not a level so much as more, I would call it a subspecialty. And we could talk about that too. I got some information in this slide deck about that. IIBA has published an exam blueprint for their 3 levels of ECBA, CCBA, and CBAP. And there are percentages from the different chapters of the BA body of knowledge on which all the exams are based. The Agile is not in the same vein as these 3. And so that exam is based on the Agile extension to the BABAC. Your slide deck has some application tips if you've not applied yet. So I'm also curious, we have another poll of how far along are you? Here we go. I've been breezing through the slide deck, by the way. So sorry, I was showing you the poll, and here's the blueprint for the exams. Here you go. So that's in your deck as some application tips. And what I was going to launch right now is how far along are you in your certification process? So I'm going to launch that poll next. And if you could please weigh in on that. Are you just looking into it, applying, you're done, you're studying, or you have an exam coming up soon? That'll kind of give me a sense of your urgency or the generality of what you're looking for. And then you can see the your colleagues on the call right now. So a lot of you have an exam coming up soon, so that's good. I'm going to close that poll, share those results. So it's really split. About a third of you are just looking into it, and over 60% of your exam is coming up soon. So that's good for me to know. For those of you that are just looking into it, we have a number of worksheets that can help you with your application. Those are behind these links that you'll see in the handout once you get it. There's also another slide in the deck that has a whole bunch of links, including if you go to any of these links for CBAP, ECBA, et cetera, you can get a worksheet. Although ECBA, not really, you don't need that because there's no experience requirement. But the first two, CBAP and CCBA, is very helpful to organize your application hours to count towards your getting accepted by using a spreadsheet like the one we provide for free. So check that out. For those of you who are exam coming up soon, we have a number of top prep tips that we like to share here and to talk through. So we can go through those, and maybe you guide me as to what you want to dive into first. So there are no questions here waiting for me. So we can cover any of these things in the slide deck in some more depth. If you are retaking your exam because you didn't pass the first time, yeah, it does happen. I'm not sure what the exact pass rate is the first time, about maybe 80%. So there are people that don't pass the first time. You can take it up to 3 times in 1 year based on your application. There's a fee every time, but the good news is you get accepted. You can take that exam 3 times, and then that is a good way to help make sure that you pass. And there's no waiting time in between either. Once you get certified, you then recertify every 3 years. I just had I forget how many times I've recertified now, but I'm a CBAP up through 2022, if you can believe that. So 10, 13, 16, this is my 4th time I've recertified. So you kind of get into the habit after a while, and it's a pretty easy thing to do. The hardest thing is keeping track of your hours, and a spreadsheet helps there too. There's some slides in the deck if you're interested in the AAC. I didn't see anybody interested in that. And lastly, you are going to get a discount code if you'd like to take advantage of any of our prep materials. So back to the slide here about if you're just looking into it, given the no questions coming in so far. The ECBA is the entry-level certificate, which requires no experience. It's good for those either brand new to the profession or people that have just maybe a few years and just maybe not even full-time BA work under your belt. So that's the entry certificate, and it's a pretty slimmed down exam, although people say there are some trick questions on it. And it's based on the BA body of knowledge like the other exams are as well, so you have to be well versed in that. The CCBA is for those, I wouldn't even say medium range BAs in terms of experience, but 3,750 hours or more within the last 7 years. And so we're looking here at people that have had some experience as business analysts and want to advance your career to be able to demonstrate your competency in business analysis. And the CBAP, which most of you are interested in, requires 7,500 hours of experience, and you need to have 900 hours in each of 4 out of the 6 knowledge areas. And so your reporting of your hours is on an honor system. So IIBA expects you to be honest to say, hey, I had this many hours of elicitation and this many hours of requirements analysis and so forth. And what they're aiming for here is to have BAs with a broader experience rather than narrower. And so those are just a real quick overview of the 3 levels. Okay, first question, Pratik, thank you. On the day of the test, would we be provided with paper to do a brain dump at the start of the test? The answer is you'll get a whiteboard. For some reason, the testing places have moved away from paper, perhaps because they feel people write down questions. I'm not sure. I think we used to have to throw it away when we left the exam, so I'm not sure what their move to the whiteboard is. But yes, you will have that. And I've been an advocate of doing a brain dump for 2 reasons. One, it can help you on the exam by referring to key things that you've memorized and structures in your mind. It just kind of gets it down there, I want to say on paper, on the whiteboard. Number 2, maybe the biggest thing it'll help you do, and let me skip ahead to my little list of prep tips here. Where we go? There, where are we? Here we go. I forget which number it is. Number 9. It helps you relieve your test anxiety. And if nothing else, that's the reason to do it, because I think the number one cause to not passing the first time is anxiety over your exam. Your brain gets kind of confused and you get nervous and you start second guessing yourself, changing probably correct answers to wrong ones. I've heard it all. So I think anything you can do and do at the start of the exam to relieve that anxiety is going to help you throughout the entire exam. I ran across one study that showed among school children that writing something positive at the top of your exam paper, like I'm going to pass this exam, statistically helped the control group versus those who did not write anything down on paper at the start of their exam. So I don't know, you have a little bit of research to back that up. Aaron is asking CCBA based on a case study questions. Not really, they're situational questions. CBAP is based on the longer case studies, which IIBA says is like a page to a page and a half. We're thinking anywhere from 400 to 700 words of text. So it can be pretty extensive. So let me see your question. Let me go back. The interface keeps moving things around. Okay. Is there a place we can see practice questions like this? Watermark seems more like the description for CCBA. I'm a little bit confused. Do you mean CBAP or whatever? We have our simulations that have several case studies as well as situational scenario questions. If you just take our drills, those are intended to help you understand and absorb the BABAC. It's the simulations that are helpful to let you see the kind of questions you're going to get on your real exam, as well as continuing to absorb the BABAC. So please send me a follow-up, Aaron, about that, because I think you may have said CCBA and you meant CBAP. I'm not sure, but the simulations is really where you're going to see those lifelike questions. Nikhil, hi. On the day of the exam prior to starting, how long do we have to do a brain dump? I think there's a limited amount of time, but it doesn't count against you for the time you have for your exam. I think there's a tutorial period where you can read through, and some of that period you could devote to doing your brain dump. So you don't have a lot of time, but I think you should have enough. I mean, if you have a whiteboard, you're not going to have that much room for writing anyway. So I hope that answers your question. Let's see, I hope I didn't erase. Kirill is saying, all working experience as process modeler analyst can be documented as relevant for the CBAP. Can it? As long as your work as a process modeler is related to tasks or techniques in the BABAC, it will count. And I'm guessing it will. IIBA is not hung up on your job title. They realize that a variety of job titles really constitute business analysis work, and that's really what they're interested in. So yeah, they're not going to use your title. It's just the work you did that is what is more important to them. Okay, Patrick said thanks. Jason says, can you provide a little more detail around the changes that will be coming around the additional steps that will be required for application submission? Boy, you caught me there, Jason. I am not aware of any changes that will be required for the application submission. I'm going to have to look that up. We'll try to get some information by the next chat. So I'm going to look that up. Are there changes to the IIBA application requirements? So sorry about that. I don't know of any changes. Maybe you could send me in a follow-up to let me know what you've heard. Oh, shoot. Sometimes this interface drives me nuts here. There we go. I'm going to get rid of that one. Nikhil saying, how many case study questions do we normally get on the CBAP exam? In the real exam, you'll get, I'd say, well, here's a guess based on limited information because we are not privy to the real exam. As a vendor, as an EEP, not allowed, nor should we know the exact thing. So what we've heard is that about a third of the exam are case study questions, a third are scenarios, and the remainder will be knowledge-based questions. Those numbers may be a little off based on the real exam, but that's kind of that's how I would prepare for the exam, is based on a third, a third, a third. And our simulation is maybe a little overloaded in knowledge-based questions, because again, the main thing that we want you to do in preparing for the exam are main things. The two things are: one, absorb the BABAC and really understand it. Number two, get a sense for the kind of questions you're going to get on your real exam. Not the exact questions, but just kind of get in that mode of thinking, like for a case study, having a lot of text to deal with and maybe some diagrams, and then be able to ask questions based on one situation. So there you have it. Aaron is saying, yeah, I meant CBAP. But, so if you're doing the CBAP online study exam from us, thanks for clarifying, Aaron. If you're only doing drills, you're not going to get the case studies. We have a limited number of them, so we don't want to have you get overly familiar with them when doing drills. What we want in those drills, again, is to get you really familiar with the BABAC. And then when you're ready, move into the simulation. So just a kind of a generalized suggestion is, when you're preparing, number 3, when you're studying one chapter at a time, that's when you want to do practice questions to understand that knowledge area. And if you get scores that are lower than, say, 80%, go back and reread sections and take another drill. Do that, go on to the next knowledge area, and the next, and the next. You don't have to even do them in order. I would tackle the most problematic knowledge areas first. That's why we include the warm-up section. In our online study exam, we have a warm-up that kind of gives you a sense of where you're strong and where you're weak, and I would devote the time up front onto your weakest areas. Save those strong ones, because you'll probably do well even without a ton of additional practice. So once you get all the BABAC chapters done in number 6, and look at your scores, go back and redo anywhere you're weak, and then do simulations. So toward the end of your study is when you should do the simulations, to kind of get in that mode of how long did I take? Can I sit still for a long period of time? Because 3.5 hours in an exam booth is no joy, let me tell you. You do get to go out and use the restroom and stretch your legs a little bit, but that counts against your time. So you don't want to be overly hydrated and be running to the bathroom every half hour. So have enough water with you to keep your brain hydrated, but not so much that you're losing time going to the restroom. You also want to get plenty of rest before your exam, because I think that's going to help you rather than any late night cramming the night before the exam. So Jason says, on behalf of IIBA, we are emailing to let you know that after November 12th, it's coming up, your certification exams, you started, will require a few additional steps. Aha, thank you. If you are able, is there any reason why you can't forward that to me, Jason? If you don't mind, my email address, and see if I can. Let's see if I typed it right. Watermark. Okay, I'm going to send you my email address up by chat here. If you don't mind sending me that, I could do some follow-up, and then I can get back to you with what I've heard. IIBA being a volunteer, well, partial volunteer organization, they're pretty lean and mean, and you have a low budget, et cetera. Don't always do the best job of communicating to all parties. I'm glad they let you know that if they're going to require more stuff, but they've not let EEPs know from a staff. Maybe they figure we're the last stakeholder who needs to know. Who knows? Okay, moving on. Alex, is there an ETA from when the AAC simulation exams will be available? I'm sorry, we're still struggling. Let me give you a little insight. If you're going to take AAC, What we have available right now is a really fabulous Agile Business Analysis / IIBA-AAC prep course. It's a 2-day course. The next one's the end of November. That helps you really get familiar with the Agile extension. Now, that's no substitute for the study exam, I realize. And we are right now discussing what to do in terms of the way the question, or the way their exam is really structured versus the way it really should have been structured. I know that sounds kind of inside baseball kind of talk, but what we don't want to do is create questions that are strictly knowledge based like the real exam, when in fact they should be more case study based like they say they should be. So it's because it's possible IIBA may change the exam based on feedback. That's a long way of saying that we want to come out with a good product, and that's slowing us down. We're going to have some discussions next week at the BBC conference down in San Antonio, and hopefully I'll have more information, and I'm thinking the earliest would be first quarter next year. So I wish I could help you more, but again, the thing we have right now to support people is that AAC prep course. So Nikhil is asking, how close is a Watermark Learning Simulation exam to the actual Cpap exam? Well, I can tell you this, the structure is similar because we have case study, we have scenario, and we have knowledge-based questions. We have a fabulous database, so we put the questions in there according to their knowledge area or subject area, like techniques or underlying competencies and so forth. So what we do is we match up against that IIBA blueprint. If I can go back here to slide number 3, there we go. We match up the kind of questions that you're going to get based on, if I could, let's see, find a highlighter. Down here, you see the different knowledge areas that are listed in the blueprint and the percentages of questions that IIBA says you'll get, and we pull from our database that same percentage. So you get a mix that matches exactly, and we have 120 questions for you. If you're taking CCBA, we have the 130 and ECBA 50. And so you'll get the same mix. Plus, there's a timer that we've set for, the 3.5 hours, say, for the CBAP exam. So you can time yourself. So I'd say it's very similar. Now, we don't know the exact content of the real questions. And I always say this because as an EEP, we have a code of conduct that says we do not want to know the exact questions. And so if we guessed right, it's only maybe because of good exam writing on our part. But what we try to do is we pull information from the BABOK and construct our questions to test your knowledge of that BABOK. And so there you have kind of like the summary of how close our questions really are. And we've gotten lots of good remarks over the years from people that the exams have helped, and we kind of stand on our record. So if you're talking to a vendor that says they have questions just like the real exam, that's either marketing hyperbole or hype or exaggeration, or else they're lying or whatever. We're not supposed to know as EEPs. So Nikhil, if your exam's on Monday, any tips to preparation for the last couple of days prior to the exam? Yeah, I go back here to this. If you're in the last stages before your exam, have you done any practice exam questions, Nikhil? First, I'd ask that. If you haven't, you better do some simulations or do some speed tests to gauge your quickness at answering questions, because that time is going to fly by. You're going to get, unless you're very exceptional at test taking, you're probably going to use a good share of that time. So doing a speed test is good. Get plenty of rest before your exam. Don't cram the night before. Do any cramming up till the day before, but the night before, get a good night's sleep. Get to the exam early. so that you don't feel anxious. I had one student of mine that said he got a flat tire on the way to his exam. Now, can you imagine that? You're on the way, and if you're like me, you typically don't leave enough time to get someplace. That's me. And so if I had a flat tire, I'd be freaking out because, you know, if you miss your exam, you still end up paying for it. So you'll have to schedule it and pay for another one. So that's anxiety. So anything like that you can do and then on the way to your exam, you know, also, or even before the exam, do something that relaxes you, because the more you think about your exam, the more nervous you are, et cetera. It's not going to help you. So hopefully that'll help, Nikhil. Pratik is saying, are marks equally distributed for the 120 questions? Absolutely. You get, well, I shouldn't say absolutely. What I mean to say is that you want to make sure you answer every single question. I don't really know whether the questions are weighted or not. They probably are. They don't tell us. They don't let us know that a question about thus and such or this knowledge area is weighted more heavily. You don't know that. So you just make sure, though, answer every single question, because if you don't, you're guaranteed to get it wrong. Because I get that question asked, you get penalized and whatever. And you get penalized if you do not answer a question. So make sure you answer them. Alexandra is asking, do you have any forum in your website where people can share experience prepared for the exams? Well, the closest thing we have, and we've been thinking about different ways of doing this, is we have something called the certification journeys. And if you can share your story by sending an email, feel free to send me an email. I sent you my email address, send me your story, and then you can share your ideas there. It sounds like that would be of interest to you, correct? So let me know what you had in mind. So we're always interested in hearing new ideas for how to help people prepare for their exams. Atun is saying, I just got certified October 3rd. Congratulations that you just became a CBAP a couple of weeks ago. Exam was difficult. You didn't believe it when I saw I passed. That's good. I found the Watermark questions and answers helpful because it refers back to the BABAC. Thank you for telling us that, Atun, because it's so important. That was utmost in our mind when writing questions, is not to try to mimic the real exam, but to help you get really familiar with the BABAC and to make sure that you understood. So thank you for that. And Atun, do you mind if we share your news with other people as a testimonial? Let us know. Thank you so much. Glad to hear you pass and that we could have helped you. Kirill is saying, I started filling in the application and noticed that the way of reporting work hours has been changed. You don't need to choose the tasks you were performing. That's correct. Version 2, you had to, and now you do not. So that means no hours reductions anymore for wrongly selected tasks? Yes, they really improved the application process from version 2 to 3 to do that. So thank you, IIBA. And so your question is, how will IIBA validate that the reported hours are relevant for certain knowledge areas? The only two ways. One, they're going to rely on you to be honest. Number two is they will audit a certain number of applications, and they will maybe engage your contacts in conversation to find out what you did. I don't rightly know because I haven't been audited for a while. I was audited back in 2007 when I first became a CBAP, and the process was different then. So that's their way of verifying it now. A lot of it is an honor system. Atun said there were lots of simulation questions and you need to pace yourself extremely well. Thank you for that advice, because yes, it may well be more than a third. It may be, it's certainly not half, but 30 to 40% is kind of the range I've heard, which sounds like it matches what you're reporting on that, Atun. So thank you for letting us know that. So any final questions before we wrap up? We have half an hour always scheduled for these. I try to go through quickly, get the really important information that you want. Anybody else whose exam is soon? 62% of you on the call today are saying that your exam is soon. So any last minute exam coming up kind of questions? Anybody last minute here? So I'm going to wish you all well and hope you all pass. Remember, know that BABAC, as Atun said, get plenty of rest, reduce that test anxiety, and good things will happen to you. So I just want to thank you for attending today. Don't forget to download the copy of the notes here, and you'll get a follow-up email from us as well with a link to our website. So if you want to re-listen to this, or if you have colleagues that missed this, they could listen to it by going to our website. So thank you very much, people. I appreciate your interest. And again, best wishes on getting your certification. Thank you much. How can you download? If you go to, before we close out, you can download by going to what's called the handout section. I don't know exactly what your interface looks like. Mine says handouts. So there is a, can you see that, Eleanor? There are only a couple options, I think, on your interface. And there, the handouts is there, or should be there. We will send you a copy as well in our follow-up. So if you can't find it there, so let me know. So Eleanor's still looking for it. Just as a reminder, you can't find it? Okay, well, I'll make sure that we send it out to you, and I'll double check with our people. Maybe we overlooked that this month, but we always do follow-up, so we try to be very thorough with this stuff because I know it's important to you. So thanks for asking, and again, best wishes on getting your certification. Bye-bye now.